guys, my name is Priscilla Elias and it's finally time for a professional maternity photo shoot. The photo shoot you're about to see are self-portraits I did of myself in my home studio. So this video will be great both for photographers looking for simple but still beautiful studio maternity photo tips, ideas and poses, and also for pregnant women who consider shooting their own maternity photos. I will also share the settings I used in my camera for each of the photos you will see here today. So if you have some basic photo equipment, of which we will talk about soon, with the tips I'm about to give you, you should be good to go in order to take photos like the ones you're about to see here. But we'll go through it all together, step by step, right after the intro. Without further ado, the first tip I have for you as a photographer willing to take maternity photos or as a mother-to-be is, I'd suggest you consider taking these photos anywhere from week 29 to week 34. Especially if you're doing your self-portraits, if you leave this photo shoot for the last minute, you might want to keep in mind that by the time you're in week 36 or so, you might not have the energy to do it yourself, and even if you're not doing your own photos, you might want to check how the mother-to-be is feeling and if she believes she can wait until further on or not. Some women go just fine with their daily activities until the end of pregnancy, while others struggle much more, especially in the last trimester when she's heavier and slower than usual. Plus, consider that there is always a chance that the baby could be in a rush and come a bit earlier than expected. So even though if you take the photos a bit earlier, the bump could not be as big as it will get, not leaving the photo shoot for the last minute will help you to guarantee you will have the photos in the first place. If it fits your budget or if you're doing the photo shoot yourself, then I'd consider doing two photo shoots, one in week 29 and the other one in week 34 to 36. Before I mention the gear I'm using today for this photo shoot, if you do not have a professional camera, if all you have is a good phone and you still want to make some maternity photos of yourself or maybe of your wife, your girlfriend, friend, or whoever, I recently made a video of this exact same photo shoot shot with an iPhone. So in case that interests you, I will leave a link for that video up here and also in the description so you can check it out after you watch this video. Of course, a phone is not comparable to a professional camera, but it is pretty impressive what you can do with it. So I really recommend you to check it out. For this photo shoot, I will be using my Canon 5D Mark IV, a Canon 85mm 1.8 lens, two different studio backdrops I got from Deep Backdrop, made in muslin, a dark and a light one, a G-Kodo tripod, which you might not need in case you're not taking self-portraits. As my main light, I will use my Godox SL60W, which is a continuous light I really like for portraits and videos, along with a newer 120cm Octobox to soften the light. And as a complementary light, I will use the portable LED light from Weilight, the RB9, especially to light the lower part of my bump, so I can get a good quality of light also to the bump, which is a very important part of the photo in a maternity photo shoot. I will leave a link for all of the gear I mentioned here in the description in case you want to check them out. As you will see, I use pretty affordable lights and tripod. And even if you use a different camera than mine, you should be able to get very good results if you follow the tips I'm about to mention here. So it's time to set things up. Something else I used for this photo shoot was this backdrop support that I have mounted to my wall, but in case you do not have this, and if you do not want to have a specific place where you would like to have this permanently installed, you can also consider having an adjustable and removable backdrop support system like this one. They're very easy to set up and down and could be a solution for you if you want more versatility and if you'd like to be able to mount this in different places other than a specific one. With that said, the second tip I'd like to make sure you pay attention to is related to lighting. You do not need to have a Godox SL60W as I do. You can instead have a strobe with a diffuser that could be an Octobox like the newer I'm using, but that could also be a softbox or even an umbrella, if that's what you get or you prefer. The results with each one of these diffusers will be a bit different from each other. Of of course, depending on the shape and the size of it. But you can get decent results with any of them, especially if you have bigger ones. I wouldn't consider anything smaller than 60 centimeters, as the smaller your diffuser, the harder the light you get. So bigger diffusers will help you to have a more diffused, soft, beautiful look to your photos. And if you don't have anything yet, I'm really happy with the light I have and I really recommend it. I've been doing all my videos and studio photos for approximately 2 years with it, and it never let me down. And the best thing, it's pretty affordable too, especially when compared to other similar materials in the market. Still talking about light, if you have a good window with beautiful light coming in, you might be able to take some beautiful shots without any artificial light. But especially if you're a professional photographer and you want or need to be versatile with the time of the day you shoot, you might still prefer to go with the artificial lights. Depending on external light will limit you with hours, weather, and time of the year to shoot. For example, I live in Sweden and it's winter here now. I only have 2 to 3 hours of good light in my home studio every day. And still, this good light is only really good when it's a sunny or a snowy day. If it's a rainy day, that leaves me with 0 hours of good light inside my house, as it is the case today. This might not work for you if you're working with clients or if you have a schedule to follow, as you will depend on the weather and you might end up having very little time to shoot through the day. About the position of the light, I position my light in a 45-degree angle with the light facing down, as if the sun was coming from above and hitting my face. If I want a very clear look with not many shadows, with photos that look less dramatic and more like a beauty commercial, I might want to have the entire face facing the light. If I want to add some drama to my photo, have face facing the light, like this. Either way, it's important to have some good light hitting your subject's face, so keep them in the direction of light. The third tip I have for you is go through possible ideas with your client before the date of the shoot, so you can match the background with the outfit/mood you have in mind. As you see for these first photos, I chose to go with a dark, dramatic and sexy look. So I mounted the black backdrop and chose to go with some black outfits that would show my bump and body, as I wanted to keep the memory of how my body looked when I was pregnant. And then we get to the fourth tip, which is related to posing. Do the poses that work for a non-pregnant woman are the same that work for a pregnant woman? Considering my experience as a photographer and a mother-to-be, I'd say mostly no. So there are some tips that should help you to either direct your moms-to-be, or in case you're the mom-to-be, to pose for your maternity photo shoot. Try not to have the legs straight like this. Instead, fold one of the knees and explore the bump. Profile photos tend to look great for pregnant women because they will show how big your bump is by the time of the photo shoot, and that's what they're going for after all. Also very important, watch the posture. A straight back makes the whole difference in making anyone look good and confident. With the posture and legs in mind, try looking at different angles and holding the bump in different ways and directions. One hand up, one hand down, switch them. Put one of your hands on the waist like this, hand on waist in combination with holding the bump from below, from above, chin up, chin down. Try one of your hands up, body facing forward, hand up and down the bump, 2 hands up. Keep this in mind and you will have some simple and yet beautiful poses to start with. Then of course you can experiment some, as each body and person is unique and might look good and feel comfortable also with other poses of their own. It's always good to keep an open mind about this. So now that we talked about equipment, light and some posing ideas, here are the photos I did with the black backdrop along with the settings I used to take them.
Take your time. Gonna make you climb down, digging deep down to turn out. You say I'm not your kind. Come on, you didn't think I would find out. Pick a side or fade out.
Now, yes, these photos have been edited, and here is the next tip I have for you. Work on your edit. If you want your portraits to stand out, Spending some time on your editing is extremely important. Just so you have an idea of how much the editing is important for portraits and what a difference it can really make, here is the before and after of one of the photos you've just seen. And no, I will not go through the entire editing process of these photos on this video, otherwise it will get too long. But in case you want to learn exactly what I do when editing my portraits, I have an entire video where I compare it 1 minute versus 1 hour editing of one of my portraits. The 1 hour editing is exactly what I do to each and every one of the photos you saw and will see here until the end of this video. So yeah, you might think it's quite some time working on editing, but if you want high-end results, that is what it takes. Either way, if you want to go simple, on this same video you will also find how I edit some of my portraits in just 1 minute. You might prefer more natural looking portraits, and in that case, the 1 minute editing might be enough for you. Link for that video up here and also in the description. So after I took these first portraits with a black backdrop, I also did some with different clothing and a white backdrop. And here's one more tip I have for you. Have some different clothing in mind, or in case you're shooting someone else, ask your client to do so. It's always good to have 3 or 4 different outfits, so you will have a bigger variety of photos and therefore a richer photo shoot. Here are the first photos I took with a white background. Then I decided to explore a sitting pose, and that reminds me of another important tip to share with you. If you're a professional photographer, this might not be new to you, but I think it's something important to mention because not everybody's on the same stage, right? So watch the angle and position of your camera. Always keep that in mind. For good facial proportions, I suggest to keep the camera at the level of the eyes of your subject. For that reason, you see I bring my camera down when I take these photos sitting down. This doesn't mean you have to necessarily do this. You might want to get creative and explore some different angles. But each angle will evoke different feelings and make specific parts of your body and or face bigger or smaller. And I won't go much further into this on this video, but in case you want to understand a bit more about what I'm talking about, I will leave a link for a specific video I recorded talking about it up here and in the description. But keeping it simple for the sake of this tutorial, there's no way to go wrong if you take your portraits with the camera facing straight to your subject and having it around the level of their eyes. All of the photos you see on this tutorial have been taken that way. After these photos, I still explored some more poses and outfits for this white background, and here is the final result I got. If I'm not exploring maternity couples ideals and poses, I'm not. Not today. Not in this video, but I will soon. In a couple of weeks, I will release a new video with ideas for a maternity couples photo shoot, so if that is something that interests you, please subscribe to this channel so you will get notified as soon as it comes out. If you're not interested in that video specifically, but if this video helped you somehow, please also consider subscribing to this channel and clicking the like button. Anyway, as you will help me a whole lot in return, and I will really appreciate it. Well, that is all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching me, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao!